You can now get a 30-day trial to experience The Athletic for free. Visit the link in the description below to try it now. In 2020-21, football retreated behind closed doors, collectively took a knee in support of Black Lives Matter, and played its games largely to the sound of artificial crowd noise. It was also the season during which 12 clubs tried to change the game forever, and when the sport lost two of its immortals, Diego Maradona and Paolo Rossi. Bayern Munich cantered to a ninth successive Bundesliga title in Germany, and Manchester City easily regained the Premier League in England. Spain saw a three-way tussle between Barcelona, Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid, and in France, Christophe Galtier's Lille duelled with mighty Paris Saint-Germain. In Italy and Scotland, dynasties were ended. Steven Gerrard's Rangers ended Celtic's 9-year hold on the Scottish Premiership, while in Serie A, Antonio Conte's Inter Milan won their first Scudetto in 11 years and left Juventus trailing in their wake. Besiktas won the title behind the goals of Canadian Carl Larin. While in Portugal, Sporting Club went unbeaten in their first championship in 19 years. It was also the season during which 12 European clubs tried to deliver what had long been threatened. Ultimately, their proposed Super League collapsed under the weight of public scorn and private doubt within 48 hours, but the anger simmered for much longer. Manchester United's Premier League game with Liverpool had to be called off after protesters stormed Old Trafford, invading the pitch, damaging television equipment, and then clashing with police outside the ground. It wasn't a good season for the elite. Most of them still dominated on the pitch, but they were blighted by scandal and soap opera offered. At Barcelona, ousted President Josep Bartomeu would be one of the 4 former officials arrested in connection with the misuse of club funds. The returning Joan Laporta would win the election to replace Bartomeu, but he'd inherit a reported debt of over €1 billion. Real Madrid would plead poverty too. They'd failed to complete a single signing across either of the transfer windows, and despite Mino Raiola and Erling Haaland making a mid-season visit, presumably in the hope of starting an auction between the Clásico rivals, neither Real nor Barcelona looks likely to be spending freely anytime soon. But Wrexham might be. In February, it was confirmed that Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney had taken over the Welsh club. Arsenal fans will hope they will be too. Spotify owner Daniel Ek announced his intention to buy the club on Twitter. Of course, stranger things have happened, and they did happen, in Spain, where a match between Sevilla and Granada had to be restarted after the officials failed to add on the right amount of injury time. In Ipswich, where referee Darren Drysdale squared up to a midfielder, Alan Judge, and in defensive walls everywhere, as the world was introduced to the draft excluder. Lost in the news cycle was Jose Mourinho. He was sacked by Tottenham after 18 months in charge, but he was only out of work for 15 days. He'll be Roma's head coach next season. Andre Villas-Boas might not be back quite so soon. He started the season in charge of Liga's Olympique Marseille, but ended it as a participant in the World Rally Championship after being sacked over transfer policy. Also dismissed were Lucien Favre, Chris Wilder and Thomas Tuchel, who would take Frank Lampard's job at Chelsea, with Maurizio Pochettino moving to the Parc des Princes. At Pochettino's old club, Tottenham, Ryan Mason became the youngest manager in Premier League history at the age of just 29. And in Japan, the world's oldest professional player shows no signs of hanging up his boots. Yokohama's Kazuyoshi Miura agreed a new 1-year contract which will expire after he celebrated his 54th birthday. No such longevity in China though. 3 months after winning their Super League title, Jiangsu FC ceased operations, with owner Su Ning disbanding all of the club's professional sides. And there was chaos at Schalke too, as they went through 5 different head coaches on the way to a disastrous relegation. Higher up the table, Marco Rose left Gladbach for Dortmund, Adi Hütter left Eintracht Frankfurt to take his place, and at the top of the food chain, Bayern Munich took head coach Julian Nagelsmann and centre-half Dario Upamecano from RB Leipzig. Business as usual in the Bundesliga then, but so too on the continent. Lionel Messi and Karim Benzema became the first players to score in 16 consecutive Champions League seasons, and Manchester City and Chelsea will contest the final. In South America, the Copa Libertadores final ended dramatically. Palmeiras' Breno Lopez scored the only goal 9 minutes into injury time, in front of just 5,000 fans at the Maracana. Palmeiras wouldn't be good enough to win the Club World Cup though, finishing 4th after losing a semi-final to Mexican side Tigres and a third-place playoff to Egypt's Al Ahly. Bayern Munich would win the final, becoming the 8th European team in a row to be crowned world champion. If you like this video, please subscribe to Tifo to help us reach 1 million subscribers. And if you do enjoy Tifo, then you'll probably also like The Athletic. If you watch our tactics videos, you should go and read Michael Cox. If you like this video, please subscribe to Tifo to help us reach 1 million subscribers. And if you do enjoy Tifo, then you'll probably also like The Athletic. If you watch our tactics videos, you should go and read Michael Cox. If you're into data, read Tom Warville. And if you're into transfers, it's David Ornstein. Plus, if you're a fan of any Premier League team, then there's a journalist dedicated to you, and you can try it for free for 30 days now by clicking the link in the description.